Get started. Sorry for the delay. We were trying to get.
We're live.
Oh, we're live. We since COVID started, we've been streaming everything live, and we've been trying to keep that going, even though we are in person. So usually it goes smoother than this. Tonight it did not, but thank you guys for your patience. We'll get started in our normal fashion. And now, hailing from the halls of Bold Mariner Brewing in Norfolk, Virginia, where real estate investing and beer collide, this is Opportunity Investors! All right. It's a good song, man. I want to go do some bench press or something. Guys, what's up, man? Thank y'all for coming out. Thanks for your patience of us getting started. This is, we're almost at 4 years now, and just excited to be here. Excited to be talking real estate in person. Glad we're still doing that, still able to do that. And thank you guys for joining us. How many people are here for their first time? Awesome, guys. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. Normally, we have another person up here, Sean Bowen. Sean has left us to go pursue a UFC career, and so we're very disappointed about that. No, just kidding. Sean is actually on vacation, and he is celebrating his anniversary with his wife, so awesome for him. Congrats, you guys, and look forward to having y'all back next month. So for now, we've got to deal with having Robert up here, you know. But no, Robert's awesome. We're super excited to have you, man. I've been working with Robert for a couple years now, and actually met him at a local networking group. Actually, no, I found out about you at a local networking group and was trying to find somebody who did VA rehab loans on more than single family. And someone was like, oh, I'm doing a duplex right now and doing a VA rehab loan. So I was like, oh, let me get his number. So I called him up and, you know, we started talking. And since then, we've done a bunch of deals, a bunch of rehab loans. And he's actually doing a rehab loan for me right now. So awesome guy to be up here talking on rehab loans, and just excited to have you, man. And now since he's become a good friend and part of our team. So thanks, man. So you guys, some new people, Opportunity Investors. What is it about? It's about real estate investing strategies, financing options, the implementation of those in this market is what we try to do. And we bring in industry experts and professionals just to talk on relevant subjects that are happening in our market right now. And then lastly, networking is a big part of this group. It's a big part of real estate investing. And so, you know, we try to bring it all together. And now that we are back in person, it's great. Like I said, we've been trying to keep up the live streaming since we did it for about a year. And there's a lot of people in the military here that are, you know, going out in different areas. So we like keeping it going so everybody can join in. So glad to have everybody here. Oh, I forgot where my beer went. Oh, here it is. All right. So we start every Opportunity Investor meeting with a little quick toast. So to learning, networking, and good beer. Let's raise our beers for a quick toast. May your castle be secure and your cup overflowing. Peace. Cheers. All right. So we'd like to start off, anybody doing any deals right now? Anybody got anything going? Anybody want to throw out a brag? Nobody? Come on, man. This room's usually got something going. I know Dan just finished his deal. Yeah. Have you talked about your deal yet? Yeah, man. You want to give a quick little something?
So I just bought another house hack. I've been house hacking since 2016, but I bought a house in Virginia Beach. It's got a detached garage with an apartment, so I'm living in the apartment, Airbnb in the main house. It's grandfathered in. It just really worked out well. So house hacking is real. It'll change your life. So I do it.
Hopefully for the better.
It's on the river.
Cool. Work, man. Like I said, I'm actually doing one right now, kind of more of a house hop, but doing a rehab loan. So I'm like dead smack in the middle of it, which is crazy. But yeah, we try to keep this group pretty real, see what people are doing. There's usually somebody doing something. I know there's other people in this room doing stuff, but they just don't want to say it. But that's all good. One thing I did want to hit before we go into our subject matter for tonight is next month is one of our favorite months. We've got the State of the Region address. We've got an Old Dominion University professor coming in to talk about what's happening in Hampton Roads with a little bit of a real estate twist. And we usually get a bunch of people out. It's a great night. If you are doing business or real estate in Hampton Roads, you should come out. It's extremely helpful, and they've got a lot of really good insight that is pretty valuable to me. So yeah, we're going to jump right into it. I think that covers all of our grounds. Join us on Facebook if you want any more information or want to touch base. Please give us feedback on what you guys want to hear about, what you want to talk about. That's how we want this to go. We don't want it to be about what Alex and Sean wants to learn about. We want it to be about what everybody wants to learn about. So, without any further ado, can't put my beer on top of my sheets here. Very good planning. We are going to talk about house hacking for a little bit, and then we're going to talk about rehab loans. And the reason why we're kind of doing both is I think house hacking is a great strategy for the average Joe to kind of capture a lot of those great real estate investing pieces. And it helps you build a portfolio and leverage bank money, a bunch of this stuff. And then rehab loans really help you maximize your ability to do a house hack and to do other things. But, originally we were like, oh, let's talk about house hacking. And then I was doing a deal with Robert, and I was like, damn, let's bring in rehab loans, because a lot of people just don't know about rehab loans, and I really think it opens up a lot of opportunities for people. So we're going to jump at that. So let's get started. All right. The first page is change that. All right. Some of the key things that we look for in real estate investing, why we do real estate investing. First off, shelter, right? You need a shelter. You got to live somewhere. And land's a finite item. We like to leverage bank money. That's a great reason to do real estate investing. Appreciation. Generally, real estate appreciates over time historically. If you look at a 30-year period, it's going to appreciate on average about 3%. Equity growth, right? If it's appreciating up or you're paying it down, there's some growth there. There's some power in that equity to do a lot of different things. We'll get into some of that. Next, cash flow, passive income, right? We like those monthly dividends. We want to make money on that property. And then next, we've got long-term wealth. It's a great way to build wealth. And that's kind of what I'm getting to is, house hacking is that strategy for the average Joe to start building a real estate portfolio, one property at a time or 4 properties at a time. And so it's also utilizes almost all of these strategies we just talked about. So we'll get into that a little bit. And that's kind of the big picture. How does house hacking help you get this real estate portfolio? So what is house hacking? Who's heard of house hacking here before? Pretty much everybody. All right, so I think your kind of standard definition is you purchase a house that you will live in while minimizing your costs or living expenses by renting out a room or an adjoining unit. So I think your key things there are you're going to live in it, and then you're going to minimize your living expenses by doing that. Well, that's awesome. I think that's kind of our narrow definition of it. But I like to kind of change that up a little bit and it kind of open up some opportunities for us here. So the mutated definition of house hacking that I like to go by is manipulating a property to gain value or increase cash flow or revenue. So basically, we want to transform a shelter and turn it into a business. We want to turn an expense and turn it into an asset. And that, to me, I think gives us a little bit more option to say, we're going to hack this house, you know? And so what does that mean? What does that look like? So I think one of the key things that we got to definitely make note of is with a house hack in general, you need to live in the property. And this is because you will get a primary residential loan if you live in the property. If you do not live in the property, you cannot get a primary residential loan. That's a VA, FHA, or conventional, 0 to 5% down. And why this is so important is if our big picture is to build a real estate portfolio, right? We want to get multiple properties. One of the things that stops a lot of people is they run out of cash. So we want to leverage bank money in order to minimize our cash out of hand, maximize its ability to help us out. So if you are an investor and you're not going to live in that property, it's going to cost you 20% down. So basically you buy a $200,000 house and I'm going to live in the property, it's going to cost me $10,000 down on the property. Robert wants to buy a house, but he's an investor. He's not going to live in the property. It's going to cost him $40,000 down. So basically, I could potentially buy 4 properties for the same amount of cash that he's buying 1 property. So we just really can leverage our cash and well when we are house hacking. By living in the property, that is a key element to help us do that. We talked about saving money. We're going to rent out a room. We're going to minimize our living expenses. We're going to turn it into a rental property, right? So I try to focus on the rental property side of things a little bit more than saving the money from renting out the other room, because the reality is you're probably going to be in that property for a couple of years, and then you're going to move out of it. So yes, it's going to, you're going to save on living expenses for 2 years, but really it's going to be a rental property for the other 28 years that you own it. So, you just want to think about before you move into it, how is this going to work as a rental property? And then lastly, we talked about manipulating the property. What we're going to do is we're going to manipulate it to fit our needs. We're going to manipulate it so that it provides us more rent, more income, and hopefully to build value, force some appreciation on it. And then the next step that I think people forget about is a step that it's the repeat button of house hacking. I like to call it house hopping, right? So once again, we said the big picture is to be able to pick up multiple properties. So how do we do that? First, we buy the property. We can buy 1 to 4 units with those standard primary residential loans. So we can buy a single family or we can buy a fourplex. Doesn't matter. We live in the property, and then we make it work for us, right? We manipulate it to work the way we want it to work, to build the value. Then, in order to pick up another property, it's super simple, but we move out and we buy another property, right? And we live in that one. But instead of selling the original property, which is what most people do, is we hold on to it as a rental property, right? Say, okay, I'm going to buy this one. I'm going to keep this one as a rental. And then we go through the process again, live in it, make it work for us, increase the value, make the rents higher, move out, and instead of selling this one, we're going to keep it as a rental. And like I said, if we're only putting 5% down, we're able to pick up so many more properties by doing this. We're able to leverage bank money. And I apologize, I'm trying to kind of drive through this super fast just to kind of get the basic idea of it out, because one, we're short on time, and really I want to focus on the rehab loan side of things. Awesome. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can manipulate that property. You can hack your house, right? Standard way, let's rent out a room or one of those, the other side of the duplex, and let's save on that living expense. That's kind of your basic model. But, like, why not rent out a room while you're on deployment? You're going to be gone anyways. Why not make some money while you're gone? People do this all the time. It kind of leads to our next one, short-term rentals, Airbnb. If you kind of work that model, anytime you go out of town, anytime you get, on deployment, anytime you're not there, why don't you have that place making money for you? One of the cool things about real estate is the ability to have passive income. So it's pretty awesome to have something working for you while you're not doing anything. So let's go away. Let's go on vacation and make money while I'm on vacation. Airbnb and short-term rentals, I think, is a amazing opportunity, especially out here in Norfolk. Virginia Beach has kind of shut the doors on this. But Norfolk has not, and Norfolk is kind of trying to help people get into it. They don't make it easy. It's kind of a pain in the butt to get set up, but there is definitely the potential to make money in short-term rentals in Norfolk. And I just switched over from a house that I had as a long-term rental last year, and it's done very well. Short-term rental, it's a great way to increase your profits potentially. Renting out a garage. So many people around here there's way more cars and motorcycles than there are garages. There's way more people that want to work on vehicles or, store boats or do anything than there are garages. So if you got an extra garage space that you're not using, there's absolutely somebody out there who would love to use it for you. You can charge them for it. What I think is probably one of the next big areas to invest in on, smaller scale investing would be on spaces like parking space for RVs and boats. Everybody went out and bought an RV and boat, and most of them didn't think it through very much. So, they've got this giant RV parked in their driveway. Every neighborhood's got a Karen in it, and somebody is going to come and say something. Hey, man, you can't park that here. They're going to tell the city. They're going to call and be like, oh, crap, now I got to put my RV somewhere. Well, I got a huge yard. Let me put a fence around it. We're good to go. Idea with house hacking is let's just get creative and let's make this house work for us. Let's turn this shelter into a business. Long-term flips, I think, are a really cool strategy. I think you got to really have a vision of what you're going to do with this property because you don't want to over fix it up if it's a rental property, right? But maybe you're doing the short-term rental, and then if you do some really nice repairs and some nice updating, it'll actually increase your value or increase your rents. So if you do a long-term flip, there's a lot of reason for it. One, if you were in this market and you did a long-term flip in the last 2 years, you probably just freaking crushed it and made a ton of money. I know there's some people here who have done that. But even in not an amazing, super fast appreciating market, it still usually benefits you. One, even if you can't sell the house, you can pull some equity from it. I know that's my last note there, but yeah, you can use the equity for improvements. You can use equity to grow your portfolio. So say you did put a bunch of value adds in your property. Now it's going to appreciate, it's going to appraise higher. Now we go and we do a cash out refinance and we pull some money from that to maybe pick up another property or to maybe fix up a property we have. And then I think that's kind of the next thing I want to hit on real quick is the post-purchase hack. So in this business, or not even this business, in the real estate investing world, we're so focused on buying process, right? Everything's on, let's get the next deal, let's get the next deal. Well, the reality is a lot of real estate is actually like after you own the property. So it's been a tough market to buy in the last couple of years, right? So why not fix up some of the properties that you already have and make them work better for you? Help them increase their cash flow and their passive income. That's something I've tried to do in the last year or two is just, let's go back to the properties that I have and let's try to see if I can make them work better for me. Sometimes it's just really expensive to buy a new property. Well, it's not that expensive to update a property. So post-purchase hacks are pretty awesome. So guys, I think there's some incredible ways for the average person to be able to get into real estate investing through house hacking. This is something that we'll jump into further on another time. But I hope that kind of gives at least a good picture of some opportunities within house hacking that you can utilize. Um, so now, why would we use a rehab loan, right? To me, this is like, let's put the steroids into the house hacking and make this thing even more powerful. So, right, we talked about leveraging bank money, um, minimizing your cash out of pocket. I think rehab loans kind of like take house hacking and rehab. I mean, it's insane what you can do, right? You're only putting 5% down, a bank's putting 95% down, and then you've got a $30,000 rehab project in you. We'll call it $20,000 for my math. $20,000 rehab. So you're going to save $20,000, and you're going to put that $20,000 basically on a 30-year note with super low interest rate right now. So you're maximizing your ability to leverage bank money, and you're able to create the property that you want. So just so you guys know, this is like the super basic definition. Robert's probably going to give a way more um, descriptive one. You got your purchase here, that's $100,000. You got your rehab here, it's going to cost you $100,000. The bank is going to say, here's a loan for $200,000, right? So we're putting it all into one, and now you've got your whole rehab on the note as well over a 30-year mortgage. That's about as simple as I think I can make it. But guys, the other thing it does is we're talking about house hacking. Everybody knows that when you buy real estate, you actually don't want to buy the turnkey pretty property. You want to buy that ugly property in that nice neighborhood, or the biggest piece you can. Not always the biggest piece. You don't want to get too far deep sometimes. But you can't really do that with a VA loan. You can't do that with an FHA loan. You can't go in and buy a beat up foreclosure. You just will never get past the appraisal process. But if you have that rehab loan, you can. You need to make it livable, right? You got to live there if you're going to do the house hacking. So now you can use your rehab loan to make it livable, make it fit for you. Talked about the long-term flips. We talked about making it more rentable. All these things, we can add value to the property. We can make it work for us to be the business model that we want it to be by using that rehab loan to help us do that. And then last, we can increase equity. We can force appreciation with some of those rehabs. We can bring up the value, and that can potentially help us. One, we can pull some money from that equity if we want. Maybe we can sell it for more money. You can potentially take out mortgage insurance, where originally conventional loan, you only put 5% down. Well, now your value went up. So now you do have that 20 to 25% equity in there. Maybe you don't have to pay mortgage insurance anymore because you added that value. You created that equity. And then you can always do something like a HELOC loan. Now, all these things, make sure you talk to people who know what they're doing. Be careful. But there's some great opportunities. And the idea is we want to leverage some bank money so that we can buy more properties, build up our real estate portfolio. I think house hacking, along with rehab loans, just can really help you maximize that. So without me blabbering on anymore, I kind of want to get Robert to come and just basically dive into rehab loans a little more detail, how they work, what they are, that kind of thing. And like I said, Robert is someone I've worked with on a lot of rehab loans, more than any other lender. He does an awesome job. And I will give this out because I keep hearing people talk about doing rehab loans and they don't know who they're going to work with. Do not try to do a rehab loan with a big bank like a USAA or a Wells Fargo or somebody that does not work on these a lot. They are very complicated. I'm doing one right now and it's driving me crazy. But you got to have someone like Robert who is going to be able to call the back office and be like, hey, how are we going to do this? What are we going to do? So you're prepared for the next step. So just make sure if you're going to do something like this, it is very involved. House hacking is already very involved. Rehab loans are very involved. Make sure you've got a good team around you of people that actually understand what you're trying to do. With that, man, why don't you take over and share what you got?
All right. Well, hey, look, I definitely appreciate the lead-in and all the kind words. I guess the rumors were true when you asked about me, and I guess I did an okay job.
Okay.
So that was kind of a cool way that we did link up. I think, before we get too far into it, the biggest thing is kind of putting a position for yourself, right? That's going to be number one. Knowing what your plan is going forward, right? Is this something that you're looking at to be a cash grab that in 3 to 4 years you're going to hope to, create a return on investment, sell the property, take the next step, or are you looking for, hey, these homes are going to be paid off by my tenants for the next 30 years, so that way when I retire, I end up buying. All right, sorry, technical difficulties. Is it working now? Okay. All right. So I'll do a quick restart because it sounded like probably my lips were moving a lot on video, so I'll do a quick recap. The biggest thing that I was kind of stressing was just making sure that you have what your vision is lined up, no matter what way it goes before you ever begin this part of the process, because there are going to be some things that maybe you don't like or that you love, but really kind of understanding what that is and what that means to you is going to be the ultimate key in setting yourself up for success down the road, right? So if this is supposed to be, what we would call a short-term grab in the world of mortgages, right? These are 30-year loans. Of course, yes, 25s, 15s, right? So on and so forth. But ultimately, we think in terms of really long, so 5-year hold is nothing, relatively speaking. But is that your plan, right? Hey, I'll do this in 5 years. I'll make $40,000 off of it. I'll use that to go buy 2. I'll use that to go buy the next one. Or, do you fall towards the, traditional house hacking model of, hey, we'll capitalize on the equity, take out more debt on that to be able to purchase the next, You do the house hop, like Alex was referencing. I live here, I buy it as a primary, live here, complete the repairs, gain the value, make it better for your cash flow, longer term, those kinds of things, right? So just kind of defining what your ultimate vision is, and you're never going to be able to get it perfect because you don't know what the property is that you're going to buy. So the property will somewhat tell you what's going to happen ultimately, but without a doubt, if you don't have that vision and you don't have the upfront knowledge of how do I utilize this and work on this to be able to create the thing. Because look, what I can tell you is that if you come to me and you want to buy a house every 3 months as your primary residence, it's going to stop real quick. And if you continue to jump from bank to bank to bank, guess what's going to happen? They're going to say, oh, hey, you bought 2 other properties in the last 6 months, and now you want to buy another primary residence. Doesn't make sense, right? So that's kind of where that long-term vision, dream, goal is going to ultimately line up with what your wants and needs are, right? So my personal idea behind investment properties is hey, look, and this is a very contradictory statement, but just hear me all the way through it. I'm not purchasing a property because I necessarily care too much about rate. Yes, it's important. I'm not purchasing a property because I necessarily care too much about how much money I have to put down or where am I going to get those funds. What I care about is, one, how can I mitigate my expenses? So maybe that's through a hard money loan. Maybe that's through, a cash buy that I then turn back around, right? I know that my purchase rate, interest rate, is going to be substantially better than a cash out rate in term or a renovation loan interest rate. That's just because of the leverage risk against banks. And it doesn't matter whether it's me with Atlantic Bay or any other given bank, it's all the same. We all have the same rule book from Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, which is the government arm of the rule makers, right? A couple other little ones in there that sort of write some rules too, but we're operating all on the same sheet of music, right? It's just how does every bank interpret it? And then making sure that you're prepared, right? For me today, I took a higher interest rate on my duplex because I wanted to be able to get as much cash back because I'm not the one paying back my loan. So my 0.5% higher on my interest rate that I took equated to $60. But guess what? For the next 30 years, I'm not the one paying that $60 back, but I also have an extra, I think it was like 41,000 or something in my pocket that I didn't have to come out of pocket with, right? So again, I'm not paying the interest rate, so I don't really care. Yes, long business model, got, again, a little bit of an abstract idea. Businesses matter, every dollar matters, every penny, but I don't have 1.5 million to go pay cash for, 6 duplexes right now. So I've got to kind of figure out how am I going to get there, because I want to drive around in my super old Cadillac and go and pick up rent checks when I'm 55, right? Like, that's what I'm trying to do. So that's what I know my goal is. Maybe that's not your goal. Maybe it is that 5-year plan, pull it out, go back, right? I just want to be able to live a good retired life, not counting on Social Security. I'm not counting on anything else that I've ever done, with the exception of my rental income coming in. Somebody else paid it off, so life is good, right? So that's the biggest thing that I can stress to you. And then make sure that somebody else is willing to kind of explain these things to you, work with you on the questions that you're not even sure to ask yourself, right? I talk myself out of commission checks all the time, right? We're commission guys. Talk myself out of them all the time, because it's not the right move for somebody. But it's making sure that they understand the right move, because now I'm their trusted advisor, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to become. Because now, when the time is right, we'll work together. They'll tell their friends that, that's that give a man a fish, eats for a day, right? We all heard that. So that's always kind of the direction I'm working for. And those are the type of people that you need to look for in real estate, to make sure that they hear out your goals, dreams, visions, because everybody who really is planning on doing this long term knows that, hey, we're not in it for one singular transaction. So let's jump to it, right? Right. So, a couple of little joke sides here and there, but ultimately this is kind of, this step process to it. And there is going to be an asterisk behind absolutely 100% everything that I say. So please just understand that when you come and talk about it, there will be differences for your particular scenario based upon specifically what it is that you're doing. This is just to give you a general framework to prepare for the process. The biggest thing that I can stress to anybody is going to be step number 1, and it's a little small here, but basically what it talks about is this: start your loan. If you're even thinking about this, getting a full-blown pre-approval underwrite TBD out of the way, the only thing that does for you is purely and simply get you that much further in the loan process. If we're trying to renovation loan underwrites take a substantially longer period of time, because it's a substantially smaller department in any given bank's back office. But in addition to that, it's a substantially more complex transaction, especially if you're dealing with multiple properties. So there's always going to be some pluses and minuses, some back and some forths that we all need to sort through. But all that I can do is or any bank can do, is if you call me up and say, hey, I'd like to go ahead and put an offer in, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to give you the worst case scenario, because I don't actually know until I have paper what that process is going to look like. It's a free process, at least with Atlantic Bay. Most banks, going to be relatively inexpensive. Maybe there's an application fee or something like that. But for the most part, there's no commitment. You have given any bank the ability to verify your information and complete a full underwrite, so you know your roadmap, right?
If you're looking to do a deal, get the damn pre-approval.
Get it done. Get it totally out of the way. Not pre-qualified. Submit your docs, loan application. That's the biggest step that I can stress to anybody. It will save you a mountain of headache on the back end, because now you're all excited. Oh, I got pre-approved. Let me go look at 100 houses. Yeah, but I really can't give you concrete evidence as to exactly what's going to be every I and T dotted and crossed, right? So the next step is going to be qualify your property. Get out there, know what you want, work with your realtor, tell them, hey, this is my strategy. This is the opportunity that I'm looking for, right? And here's how I want to go about it. Okay, that search is very different than a primary residence versus an investment property versus a second home, vacation rental, whatever it may be, right? So work on that. Now qualify your property. You found a good deal that looks prospective. Go in and take a look at it. We can all take shots in the dark, right? Nobody knows exactly what a kitchen renovation is going to cost or exactly how bad the crawl space is, but give yourself an idea of what you need to do to this property. And now you can kind of move forward. So that way, when you call your contractors, you can tell them, hey, I need this, 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 and this, right? And oh, by the way, tell me what other, problems I'm going to have along the way. The next is immediately contact your contractor as fast as you can. Every contractor will absolutely race out there in an instant to tell you how much they can do the renovation work for. What will take forever is for them to write up the bid, because, hey, look, they're carrying 2x4s and hammers around all day. The last thing they have time to do is sit in front of a tablet and type this out and then they go home at 9 p.m. after a long, hard day, and they definitely don't want to sit down and do that. So the more advanced that you can be along this part of the process, much better it will be. Make sure that you get some recommendations. Most, and including Atlantic Bay, will absolutely not recommend a contractor, because the last thing that we want is, hey, this is, you told me to use this contractor and they haven't showed up on the job in 5 days. Like, what's wrong? Well, we don't know. That wasn't our intent of providing you with a phone number, right? Do your due diligence, figure them out. I'm happy to give you some names to go and check for, but ultimately, make sure that you're happy with their finished product. Make sure that you feel like they're professional enough, and to make sure that you're willing to deal with them for 3, 4, 6 months, right? You're gonna be working on your house. So that's really kind of where you need to go. The next piece is going to be getting your appraisal ordered. We have to have all of your inspections done, everything ready to go before we can do that. There's gonna be a little bit of back and forth afterwards, and finally, prepare for closing, right? So we're looking at the first step here, which is conventional renovation loans. So I put in a couple of highlights, but ultimately the biggest piece, and again, because this will come out later and we can talk through it, right, is ultimately going to be, just know that with the conventional renovation loan, you can do whatever you want. Primary residences, second homes, investment properties. Yes, the scaling of both interest rates and down payments grows as far as the risk becomes greater, right? Most people are going to default on their investment property before they're ever going to default on their primary residence, because, hey, look, they're not the ones that are going to be homeless, right? So naturally, you have to prepare for some of these things, and that's where I was kind of saying, be ready for what does your model look like? Are you prepared for a higher interest rate? Are you comfortable with that? It matters, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to discourage you from rate shopping, but just realize that that advertised rate on the internet for the lowest of the lowest, FHA loan rate of 1.875 is not what you're going to be getting on a conventional renovation loan, not even close. Most likely those disclosures are probably for a 15-year, so on and so forth, right? So be prepared for that. The minimum for first-time homebuyer loan is going to be 3% down on the conventional renovation. Good rule of safe bet of thumb, 5%, right? Second homes tier up to 20, investment properties to 25. You're looking at needing months in reserves, right? So for not only if you're looking at this as either an investment property or primary residence, you've got to have some savings left over. So we'll need to tack on more for additional properties. The repairs, a little bit of a tricky scenario here, but we're looking at 75% of the acquisition and transaction costs. So basically, we can't go into a neighborhood where there's a $25,000 house for sale and turn it into a $450,000 house, right? You'd be the biggest house in the neighborhood, won't make any sense. You'll never get the value of it, right? So it has to fit with where it is, right? And then there's both limited and standard products. Knock to the next one. I think we're going to FHA after this.
They are going to be doing last call in about 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, take a pause. Hey, we can take a 5-minute break.
We can always take a fiver. We can always take a fiver. Everything got pushed back a little bit further, and evening got shortened. We thought it was still 10 o'clock before, but so if anybody wants to
run, it's cold beer. I wouldn't be running. All right. Well, hey, look, if we're not going to have any jumpers right away here, I'll go right into the FHA side.
You can wait till you look the other direction.
What's it? Oh, yeah. No, okay. So on the FHA, it does tier down a little bit. I'm sorry I didn't hit this note earlier on the other slide, but conventional's max limit is going to be $548,250, right? That's the conforming limit across the United States. Also happens to be the conforming limit here for Hampton Roads. You sometimes hear about adjusted in conforming limits because, look, it's a lot more expensive to buy a house in Seattle than it is to buy here, right? So there's a calculation for that. But with FHA, unlike the conventional and VA side of things, they haven't tiered up their limit. So we're looking at basically being just shy of 460, right? Still a ton of opportunity there, but this is a primary resident loan only. So we're not going anywhere else with this. If you bought 5 properties in the last 6 months, we're probably going to have quite a few more questions as to whether this being your true primary residence, because it's not quite making a lot of sense. Then least amount down, 3.5%, right? And then 110% value for refinance, which means that you can kind of jump up a little bit higher than where we are. Minimum credit score 640. Yeah, you can get some closing cost assistance, but good luck in this particular market, right?
Kind of tough.
Both limited and standard options as well.
Sorry, before we move on, we have a question online.
Sure.
What are the general requirements for contractors, license level, insurance, company size, etc.?
For sure. Actually, we'll get to that. Yep. All in the slides for sure. So your VA loan. So in this particular case, this is really kind of a very cool concept. I'm not aware of anybody else doing it. I 100% guarantee you with the thousands of lenders across the United States, absolutely somebody else is. But for our region, this is all that I'm aware of. It is obviously following the VA rules, right? So you got to serve in the military, but either active or retired. Have your eligibility available. We will only do it on primary residences. The maximum amount financed is $50,000. But what your true bid and repair cost is actually going to tier down to 45. It's actually a hair lower. It's like $44,728 or something like that. I mean, it's some ridiculous number, but that's always a good thing. I mean, if I can't talk you into bringing in extra like $238 to the closing table because it didn't meet your loan requirements, probably should save a couple extra bucks before we do this. But that's the only way that we can make this 100% financing, because we have to be able to build in some of the contingencies, fees, costs, things of that nature. So yes, you can use your VA loan to renovate 100% on both a 1 or 2 unit property, right? And it is for cosmetic updates only. We're not going in doing any structural work. Don't even ask. Well, this window, this is only going to kind of sort of be cut out of the kitchen so that there's like a pass through, and then we're going to put a count. Nope. I mean, you're cutting into 2x4s. It's not going to happen. Yes, putting a couple holes in the walls to move some electrical outlets or reroute plumbing. Yep, 100% not structural work, right? That's okay. But if you're thinking that you're going to open and or do anything, it's just not going to happen. That's not what the VA loan is decided for, but it is a great way to be able to purchase a property that is distressed, that doesn't meet the standard VAs. We always get hit on roofs. We always get hit on appliances. We always get hit on flooring. We always get hit on these couple of things. Unfortunately, you cannot put any termite or moisture repairs in there that are going to be structural, but you can do treatments, things of that nature in some instances. So just an incredible opportunity. And really, it's going to cover a pretty wide range of items, but touched a little bit on that. So if you want to click the next one here. Okay, here's our question from online, right? What can you do about your builders, right? We are talking about A and B contractors only. I put a little note in there, it says sometimes C's, right? Really don't explore that avenue too much. It kind of comes into sometimes C's if we're talking about like only putting on a roof, right? C level contractor, perfectly well qualified to put a roof on. If you're really going to be going much more beyond just some really basic windows and roofs and sidings and stuff like that, cross it off the list. If you're planning on replacing countertops, cabinets, painting, anything that's not simply repair and replace like a roof or siding, it's not going to happen that way. So this is not HGTV. You can't go and do it yourself, right? You can't go in, but I'm perfectly good at painting. Hey, you know what? We know you are. We saw you on paint night, last Wednesday on Facebook. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful picture. It's just not going to work for this, right? You have to be a licensed tradesman in your profession if you are going to do any self-help across these loans, period. So it's not like I did some electrical work one time. No, I am a licensed professional electrician, and I am going to do my electrical work on my house. I am an HVAC contractor. That's what I do for a living. Okay, cool, no problem. Save some bucks, go ahead and use it. But it's just not going to happen any other way. We understand you're perfectly capable. Next up. All right. So this kind of defines a little bit, that looks like as I switch the file over, not merged, some of my formatting has kind of jumped around. So no big deal. It's just the beauty of computers, right? And me not having a clue what I'm doing with them. But a standard renovation loan versus a limited renovation loan. I talked about that a couple of different times, right? VA is going to be limited all day. So what does this really mean for everyone? Basically, it is the defined definition of cosmetic versus structural. There is a little bit of a limit on the amount of repairs that you can do with limited, right? I mean, it's very straightforward. Limited is limited in every sense of the word. Standard will allow you to do anything that you want, right? I mean, it has to make sense, guys. No, you cannot build like, one of those geometrical igloo sphere structures out back. It's just not going to happen, right? But if you want to expand your square footage, you want to do structural components, you want to add a room, you want to pop the top, make a 1-story, a 2-story, all of that works in the standard. Not going to happen in the limited, structural versus non-structural. But again, no matter what happens, you can't sink forever dollars into this. Eventually, you will come to the cap where it doesn't make sense, right? Kitchen cabinets, average size house, I don't know. I'm not a contractor, so we'll make this up, $15,000. But you find these beautiful custom cabinets that you want to spend a fortune on, and it's going to cost you $40,000 in the cost, probably not going to ultimately work out at the end. Doesn't mean that you still can't do it. It just means that be prepared to bring some extra money to closing, because ultimately what you're spending your dollars on isn't going to meet its final value, right? A $15,000 kitchen cabinet is going to work just as good and give you a virtually the same value as a $40,000 cabinet. Yeah, one's way nicer, don't get me wrong, right? But there's not going to be a lot more value add. There's a couple of notes in there about how the process works. Whenever you go structural, you have to bring in a HUD consultant. This is kind of a blanket term used. Basically, it's somebody who can come in and evaluate from all sides. It's a third independent party that's certified by HUD. So Housing Urban Development, right, is what we're looking at there, what we're talking about. So essentially the government comes out, right, makes sure that everybody's protected. Yes, of course, the bank, right? We always want to, we're in, the business of lending money. We really don't want your house back. We want to make sure that it's going to make sense. We want money, not property. So they're going to make sure that 1, we're protected, and 2, that you're protected, right? We don't know whether the roof on any given house should cost $8,000 or $20,000, right? That's where we kind of rely on him. So anytime that we get into those big structural components, and I would just recommend it in general, it's a great third independent party to tell you a great cost of what something should be, so you know whether you're getting ripped off from your contractor. And then we have to have 1 itemized bid. In the limited, because it's just going to be a cosmetic situation, we're looking at just 2 itemized bids from 2 contractors. We don't need the HUD guy. There's a little extra expense there, right? Both standard and limited, minimum of $5,000. Have a minimum of $5,000 in repair costs. The limited is capped at $35,000. Okay.
Can we ask for additional rehab funds in the case that contractors uncover other issues while working on a quoted job?
Yep, so there is a contingency fund built in there automatically to ultimately kind of protect for some of those unforeseens and miscalculated things, right? We saw this.
That never happens though, right?
Never. No, not when lumber prices tripled during COVID. No, never happened, right? So some of that is all built in. Ultimately, there's only so much accounted for, right? So in any given instance, that this really, quite frankly, very rarely happens. And that's part of the whole, checks and balance systems with the reason why when we switch over to the full, when we switch over to the full, maybe this should be like a hard liquor thing because, the beer. So when we switch over to the full and we get into the structural item, we're really relying, like for instance, one of the guys that we just love and recommend everywhere, the guy's name is Danny Fincham. He owned his own Class A contractor, and I mean, forgive me, Danny, if you're watching, I'm going to get this stuff wrong, but I mean, it was several decades of him being a general contractor. Well, now, hey, look, let me just go and help some people out, right? I like to enjoy my life a little bit more. I don't want to be under that crazy stress of, having 20, 30 properties going all at the same time, trying to manage it. So now I'm just kind of going to wane back, right? And kind of work with other people to help them along the process. He knows he can see things that you and I can't see. He can see that bow in the roof. He can see that wobble in the floor and know, ooh, hey, before we proceed forward, we have to really kind of evaluate this. So does it ever happen? I mean, of course it does. We don't know everything in the world. Nobody has an x-ray that can look through walls. Nobody really kind of knows all these things. So that's, again, why being prepared for this and understanding the risks that you're going for is going to be inherently important. I've never heard of a renovation loan getting canceled midstream because they found such a detrimental problem that it couldn't be resolved in some way. That's not to say that maybe you didn't have to bring a couple extra bucks to the table, but ultimately everybody wants this to work for everyone. So I do know in the instances that it has happened, everybody has kind of reevaluated, worked together, had the conversations to figure this out. So that way nobody was left high and dry, whether it was the bank or the borrower, right? I mean, it's just the last thing we want is our name to get drugged through the mud. So I hope that kind of answers the question. Renovation loan tips. All right. Again, sorry, my formatting switched here, guys. Number one is your interest rate will be higher. And this is my famous line that I tell every single person. If you call me after this, you're going to hear me repeat it again. But there are a lot of sticks and nails at Home Depot, right? And we are getting ready to give somebody $200,000. They only bought it for $100,000, right? And now we're going to give them a full additional $100,000 with the thought that this property is going to be worth $200,000 at least, right? Maybe $230,000, $240,000, right? You get a great deal, sweet deal, everything works out. You get that natural built-in equity. So just be prepared for that. That was kind of that bracing for the plan. Know what's coming, know what's happening. Yes, it's unfortunate that the advertisement versus what a renovation loan interest rate is going to be completely different. Hey, do you have the $100,000 to be able to buy this in cash and then the additional $100,000 to do the renovations? No. So 0.5% interest rate higher to be able to do that? Pretty tremendous and ridiculously cheap money, right? The next thing is just talking about the overall cost of the transaction, right? There's going to be additional people involved, unlike a traditional purchase. You have HUD consultants, you have inspection fees, you have draw fees, you have a myriad of additional people that are needed to ensure that this thing goes smoothly. There's no free lunch. Nobody's going to do it for free. The HUD guy's not coming out because he doesn't want you to get ripped off. He's coming out because he doesn't want you to get ripped off, but he also wants to make some money, right? So that's why he's out there. So just, again, be prepared for that. But again, if you're short $100,000, 0.5% interest rate and a couple extra bucks for closing, a lot cheaper than the missing $100K you don't have. Prepare for delays and unexpected events, right? We don't have that x-ray, as I said previously. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know that there was a 2-week delay on ordering your cabinets because of supply chain issues related to COVID, right? So know that that's coming. Have a plan. Don't, have your family and kids stuck somewhere because, well, it was supposed to be done exactly on the 18th. Oh, hey, look, contractor doesn't make cabinets. Just, he orders them, right? So be prepared for that. Know that there's things coming. Complete everything as quickly as possible. This is going to be your biggest lifesaver overall. I said it, I started it with it in step number 1, but get your loan done, apply, get your documents in. You will be excited to go look at properties. You will be excited to hear what your rental potential is going to be on this, how much maybe extra equity, what the beauty of the kitchen will look like afterwards, right? You're going to forget, and the last thing you want to do is go home and send me a bunch of W-2s. I guarantee it. You're going to want to go home, talk to your, board of advisors, mom, dad, fiance, wife, husband, whatever your significant other board of advisors is kind of what I'm talking about with that. Your sounding board, right? Look at this, look at that, and you spent 4 hours talking about a house rather than spending 20 minutes sending me a bunch of W-2s. So get that out of the way. It will save you massive stress levels and everything else in the process. The next thing, the biggest and probably most important piece that we haven't gone over just yet, but your down payment and settlement costs are going to be based upon your total transaction. So in a normal purchase, your $100,000 buy, your 5% down payment is $5,000. In this particular case, because you're putting $100,000 into the property, you're looking at your down payment being based on the 200K or 10 grand, but also all of your other loan costs as far as your city and state tax stamps, title insurance, you name it, it's all going to be based on 200K, right? So that's, again, where you need to make sure that when you look at this part of the process, you're prepared for that end of the spectrum. And another thing, big thing that probably is missed regularly is that, hey, this isn't like some type of temporary loan until everything is done, you sort of are good. Nope, it's a 30-year loan right off the bat, conventional VA, FHA loan, which means that it operates exactly as a traditional 30-year mortgage would, which means, guess what? Your mortgage payment starts the following month you close, right? So be prepared to know where you're going to live, be prepared to be able to pay, whether it be both mortgages or rents or whatever it is, have that plan in motion. Have your in-laws ready for you to move in, right? Let them know what's going to happen. Let them know, hey, it should be for 3 months, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be for 4 because we don't know about, step number 3, be prepared for the delays and unexpected events, right? So just think about all that stuff. We don't want this to go wrong for you. Nobody does. Everybody wants to work as hard as they can for it to be perfect. It just doesn't always work that way. That's what I got. So, questions?
Yeah, so everyone, that's it. And for online, I think we're going to go ahead and shut down because I don't see any more questions in here. Oh, wait, there's one more. Is there an early payment fee?
Paying off your loan early.
So there are no prepayment penalties with any loans that we provide. So you hit the lottery the day after you close, renovation loan or not, you want to stroke that check and pay this off, you're good to go.
As long as Robert's been paid.
Cool. All right, so everyone online, thank you guys so much for joining us. Check us out next month online because the State of the Region
Address.
meeting, State of the Region address, whatever, is going to be really cool. It's a big one. For those of you in person, we can kind of take a vote if you would rather get a chance to network a little bit because we've only got about 20 minutes, or if you want to ask questions. But if you're networking, you will have a chance to talk to Alex and Robert individually. It's up to you guys. But again, thanks everyone online. Alex, anything to say to people online before I shut it off?
No, I think that's it. Thank you guys for joining us, and
Everybody.
yeah, come again.
Cool. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.